What is up? What's up? What's up? Okay, here's the dealio. The old dealio. You might notice. You as in nobody, because nobody watches these. But you might notice that things have changed up a little bit around here. Around the old Jacob's Void. First, the background's different. The background's different because I'm coming from you. I'm coming to you from Montreal. Montreal. I'll get into why I'm here. Second, I'm also sitting down. I'm not standing up in the one fucking clean corner of my room. I'm sitting down in a hotel in the middle of downtown Montreal. I just got back from going out and getting poutine late at night by myself. And I got all philosophical. And I was philosophical already. I was gonna make this video already. This talk didn't affect it. But there's a whole nother layer to this. So things gotta change. I just gotta make this right now. You know, we'll get back to the regularly scheduled bullshittery when I'm back at home. But here's the thing. Here's what hasn't changed. Here's what hasn't changed. I'm recording this at 2:49 at night. 2:49. And here's why. Here's why I was out getting poutine in Montreal at 2:49 at night. And why I have a hotel room to myself in the middle of downtown Montreal. It's because I'm here for the C2 conference. And I think I've explained this before on here, I don't know. But I'm here because of the work I did in Pi, my GDS idea. I already explained it. I know I explained that before. How I won the Pi challenge in TCAS. But I got invited to come down here and speak with Joe Armstrong, who is the VP of digital integrations and digital twins, all of that at CAE. And I got to do a talk with him about my idea I made at Pi, about why they choose to work with someone like me, all of that kind of stuff. And it was freaking awesome. It was awesome, and I'll explain why. I'll explain why here. Because first of all, it's a talk at a conference. I love conferences for the people. Like, they've changed my life. I don't know if I've fully been able to explain yet how Web Summit changed my life, which is the first major conference I went to when I first started to get into networking. But it changed my life, and ever since I've been trying to keep growing off of that, because I felt like I truly lived my life when I was just talking to people at conferences. So I was excited to come back to a conference, first of all, get not flown out, I took the train, but get put up in this amazing hotel to do a talk with somebody who is awesome, about a company that is awesome, about an idea that is awesome, about something they want to do that is awesome. And I get to go to another conference. C2 is what it's called. It's in Montreal. It's not necessarily tech, it's kind of a bit of everything. And it's different. It's different than other conferences and all that. But I guess I'll have to go with the chronological order, timeline of events to get my mind in order, because I got a lot to say. But so yeah, I took the train here. The Via Rail it was cool. It was cool. I came with some other TCAS students. I didn't know them as well. I knew one of them all right from going to a conference with them before, but I came with some other students who were doing a talk about some work of theirs, like they were going back to back all on the main stage. But since I was doing it, it wasn't even really a talk that I was doing. It was more of a roundtable discussion with Joe. And the thing is, I never prepared for this. I never prepared. I just didn't prepare for it at all. At all. Because firstly, it was a conversation which was about CAE, which I know a lot about GDS and my GDS idea, which I know a lot about, and about me, which I know. I pretend to know a lot about. I don't know. But yeah, I didn't want to prepare it because I didn't want to get in my head. I didn't want to ruin it because I think if I just had a conversation with Joe up there, it would have been good. And there was no need to prepare. So this whole train ride over, I'm just kind of chilling with the other students, right? Our talks were actually on the first day of the conference, and we had kind of a coaching call with our directors from TCAS to kind of get ready for our stuff from the conference. So some of them were kind of stressing out on the train about what they're gonna do and all that, but I was not. I was a little bit, worried, like, hey, maybe should I be preparing? I don't know. But I was confident at the end of the day. I was confident that I knew how to get up there and just do a conversation. Because the stage, we had a 40-minute time slot, Joe and I, to do this thing. I would have just loved to talk to Joe for 40 minutes. And here's what happened. We get here. We go on our coaching calls with directors who aren't in Montreal. We had a really cool director from Montreal kind of show us around, and he was awesome. I never met. He was awesome. I love him. He made this experience so cool. And also, there's a few other students who kind of came along who are from Montreal. They made it amazing. They showed us around the city, all that. Just everyone from the TCAS team was here, and it was awesome. But anyway, everyone was kind of getting on coaching calls. Who was doing talks and starting to get all stressed because in those coaching calls you kind of tend to get roasted. So you can do better when you actually do a talk. I didn't have one because I wasn't doing a talk. It was a discussion. I didn't have one, and because I was in terms of being in TCAS, I'd been in TCAS the longest of all of us who were kind of here already and who were getting ready with coaching calls and all that. Like, I'd been here the longest, I'd done the most talks, all that. I was really intentional about trying to help, right? Trying to help them do better, because first of all, like, I think many of the things they were going through, it's like the exact same thing I went through at Web Summit and South by Southwest. But then also, I think when you help people with something you understand that they may not, when you help them to understand it, you tend to also gain a new understanding for it yourself. So I decided, you know what, I'm not going to prepare anyway for my talk. Let me just try to be as helpful as possible, almost. So I went late into the night, right before my talk, trying to help them with theirs, and I think I still got a lot of value out of it, and I hope that they benefited from it. But anyway, so the thing with my talk, and what I didn't really explain yet, was my talk was first thing in the morning on the first day. First thing in the morning on the first day, and I wouldn't know this until I showed up to it, but it was actually the first talk of the entire conference, of the entire thing. So I had to wake up at 7:30. I had to be basically down and ready I didn't have to wake up at 7:30. I had to be down and ready at 7:30 because my talk was at 9. And I stayed up late the night before, practicing and trying to help other students who were doing talks, and also kind of getting myself hyped up for my talk without even really preparing. But when I did wake up that day, I went downstairs. I got ready. I finally met Joe in person for the first time. We just kind of started talking and all that. We started talking, as we're supposed to. He's a very interesting person. I wanted to get to know him better. And the funny thing is, when I showed up, he had basically not prepared either at all. He had not prepared, and it was very funny because it was the same way as me. He was like, "I don't need to prepare. There's no need at all. We can just talk." And there was some confusion about like who would be moderating it, if someone would be asking us questions and all that. At the end of the day, that didn't matter. Like, we were terribly disorganized, but that didn't matter because we spent the time preparing, just talking. The hour and a half before the talk, just talking to each other. And what happened with that so we spent most of that time preparing for the talk. And on the other side of things, this is what it kind of bothered me, but I totally understand, is Joe, in the time before our talk, he had to take a lot of calls. Because the CAE, the company, they were in a bit of hot water after their core Q1 reports or something. Their stock was going down. Joe had to put out fires because he's just that kind of guy. So he was busy talking for a decent sized portion of our preparation time. But that didn't matter. We still got ample time to talk to each other, which I loved. And then it came time to do the actual talk. And the thing with C2, and this is one of the things I loved about our talk, is most of the conference is in a hotel. The whole conference is in 2 buildings across the street from each other. And in Montreal, I don't exactly know what to call that place because I don't know any French. I don't even know if it's named in French. I'm just gonna use that as an excuse for not knowing where. But in between these 2 buildings where the conference is, there's this underground mall with a food court. And when it came time for our talk, they took us down to this food court because these C2 set up a stage in the food court. And here's why it was the coolest thing ever. Okay, this stage was like your basic conference stage, right? Your basic nice conference stage, proper stage, 2 seats for Joe and I to talk to, nice big screen behind you. There's even some plants around the stage. They had a fog machine going on behind it, all that. It was a nice stage that they set up where this food court was. And they set up all the seats. There was a bunch of seats, and because it was the first conference of the day, there was a sizable amount of people there. But here's the thing that I just can't get my mind off of, and this is what tied the whole thing together, and something I'll never forget because it made it just magical, is this stage, this whole food court. It's underground, right? It's underground. But the roof of it is between, literally these 2 buildings that you see right behind me is between this building and this building that I'm pointing to. It's between those, and the roof of this thing is glass. It's glass. You can see up at those 2 buildings through this glass roof. And it was raining on the glass roof. Just the vibe of that, of the rain. Not a crazy amount of rain, just not a light amount of rain, like a normal amount of rain, just hitting this roof, pooling and swirling all around. You can still see the outline of 2 massive buildings right beside it, and underneath it is mist and fog and plants and this awesome stage and this well thought out area for people to sit in this food court. And it was Joe and I kicking off this conference, and I loved it. Like it just got me. It was the right space for me. It got me in the right headspace. We just went up, we sat down, we had a conversation, and I think it was great. Because what I was intentional about going into it, I wanted to have fun. I think that's one of the most important things to make sure of when you do stuff like that is to have fun with talks. You gotta have fun. And that's what I optimized for. And it was fun. At the end of the day, it was fun. And I think it went very well. Like, I think I communicated my points well. I had a lot of fun. I think the audience took it pretty well from what I'm understanding. Even the other students and the director there, they liked it. Of course, there's some things I can do better, right? Like, and it's good that I kind of know those now. Like maybe a bit of preparation would have been useful to make it better. I'm not exactly sure. I just did my thing. I had fun. I think if I were to repeat this and just learn from it, just the little bit of experience you get from doing something like this each time, without having to be intentional to change the whole structure of what you're doing, I think I would be fine. Because this was awesome. But again, the thing with it was that Joe, he basically had to leave right after our talk was over. Right after it ended. And what I really wanted to do at this conference was try to shore up the terms of an internship at CAE for my team and I who worked on the Pie Challenge. To do our GDS idea. Because it's insanely simple. And I think we can do it. And we just needed to have that communication to set up an internship where we're basically working on our own project. And not doing normal intern stuff. And that would have taken time. But Joe had to leave. He had to leave. And I guess that got into my head. I got a little stressed about it, because right as he was leaving, I was kind of telling him, like, hey, like, we'd like to talk to you, and he was like, oh, just email me. Which is like a step back. Well, because also we got to know each other pretty well, and the talk was very cool, which I think gave me a huge step up when I actually emailed him. But I did email him. I'll finish this kind of line of the story now. About the internship, I did email him. He said he can't make promises, but he thinks it might be a good idea if we were to intern and kind of work out a few different ways to make this idea. And we set up a call in the next few weeks to actually kind of figure that out, which, I'm fine with, I'm fine with, because I was really glad that we got to do that talk. I'm really glad, and I just hope that our meeting in the next few weeks goes well, because I'm still really passionate about GDS and I would love to work for CE on it. But after the talk, it was getting back into networking for your boy. Well, first of all, later in the day, the other three students gave their talks. So there was a little bit of prep into it, not as much as I actually would have liked to have helped. I was just, for some reason, I was just never around them, and it never came across my mind that, hey, like, I liked helping these guys, like, I want to be invested more in what they're doing. And it came time for them to give their talk, and all I could do was just show up in the audience and watch. And I think they did the talks, they were on the main stage about personal projects. They were, I would say, rough. There was a couple trip ups, because they basically, all three of them had basically just memorized a script for this talk, which is something I don't agree with, and is something I tried to tell them not to do. But then also, like, it just got tripped up, like they weren't ready for the lights of it almost, right? And it got in their way. Like, at the end of the day, though, the boss mentality was amazing. They absolutely nailed the rebound from the trip ups. But they did happen, and this kind of got into my head a little bit, because I think on one hand they over prepared, like scripting your entire talk. That's over preparing. That is way over preparing, and it's relying too much on something that just can't be relied upon, which is your memory. It relies too much upon that. Like when you give a talk, what I learned, you should just be genuine. You should just be talking. It should be like a conversation, which you just can't do if you script. And I think that was a major contributor. But then also, just the general hype up. Like you receive feedback. I think the boss mentality is really important, and I think it would have been better if there was more of it. And I think that could have happened if there was just more hype up. Which is why I kind of feel really bad that I wasn't there after my talk more for them more, because I think a lot of my insights from doing these things and the stuff I would have supplied and I was supplying before, but that I really wanted to hammer home could have been very useful for them. But at the end of the day, we're just doing this for learning, right? So it's fine. That's fine. It's fine if you trip up. Like they've been learning from it very well. But then it was back to networking for me. Back to networking, and here's how the networking. Here's the lowdown of the networking here at Old C2. So first, French, Quebec, François, Français. Oh my bad, Français, Quebec. I can't speak French. But yeah, about half the people were French. Most French Canadians can speak English, especially in Montreal. Many of them could, so it wasn't even really a barrier in networking for me, but it was kind of a mental thing at the beginning where I was like, where do I always get this person speak French? But yeah. And the networking, so there was one area down in the lobby, and it was called Brain Date, which is a familiar term for TCAS. It was called Brain Date. And the way this thing worked is anyone can go and put up basically a topic on the conference app through Brain Date. Put up a topic, and you basically set up a conversation with 5 to 6 people. It could be one-on-one. You set up a conversation with a time. You put up the time. You say, hey, I'm going to be showing up to Brain Date at this time and this topic. And people, no matter what their background is, no matter what they think is, they would just show up for it, which is a freaking awesome way to network, if you ask me. Yeah. Amazing way to network. And it worked so great because the only other networking area in C2 was these kind of co-working areas that they had up a bit higher in the building before the stages and such, with a lot of basically just stage goers, which I don't really go to any talks when I'm at a conference at all, unless I know the person beforehand who's doing the talk. I don't think it's valuable to go to a talk. That's just me. But yeah, so the Brain Date networking at C2 hinged on this Brain Date thing. And it took me a while to get kind of back into my networking groove. I think I struggled with a bit of confidence in my networking ability and all that, trying to get it done, and it took kind of until the last day to fully get going, like firing on all cylinders. But what really lifted me up was my very first Brain Date, which was with this Australian man who he was just awesome. Like, he was very interesting. He talked a lot about flow state, which I'm not going to explain now. If you want to know, just look it up. Flow state. He talked about his former career, all that, how he basically had to change his life, optimize it when he found out he had ADHD or ADD, whatever the right way to say it is. He found out he had attention deficit. He changed up his careers and he got into basically energy management. Instead of time management, energy management. How do you manage your energy so that you can live a fulfilling life? How can you be successful? How can you set yourself up in successful areas instead of constantly being stuck back in areas where you feel undervalued? Which was cool for me, at least, because I feel undervalued from school. I feel screwed over by the school system, right? And there was one other man there. First, he was a hockey goalie. I love hockey. Do everything about it. Goalie, I align with that, right? I align with that. He was a hockey goalie. And he just gave very interesting perspectives because he lived in Montreal, he changed careers, all that. Like, he just followed his passion, which I loved. And he also had a very cool connection to somebody who works in GDS for me. But yeah, that was very cool. And that was the first brain date, and that's when I really connected with these two. I think it was awesome. It was awesome to do that. But continuing onwards, brain date was so important, and it basically became my favorite way to meet people because I would just sign up for any topic. There was a whole bunch of different random topics. I would sign up for any topic because really the topic didn't matter. The topic didn't matter at the end of the day. What was being talked about, it didn't matter. That was just how the conversation was going to start. Because always in these brain dates, you would just get to talking about the person, the people. It would become a person-to-person conversation instead of anything transactional, which was great. And this really got me thinking, like, could it be more accessible if you didn't even have to rely on the human part? You didn't have to rely on the human understanding that, hey, the topic doesn't matter, I'm just going to sign up for one. Because if you could make a simple AI that just recommends saying, hey, based off of this, I think you'd like this topic, and it'll just sign you up for it. I think that could make it way more accessible because it gets rid of that huge barrier in the human mind about not wanting to sign up for something they're not interested in or not feeling right enough for it, even though at the end of the day, it's just a conversation with people. It doesn't matter how it's going to begin. So it got me thinking about almost like a dating app for this. A dating app that would kind of align you with who you want to talk about, right? With who you want to talk about. And with that, I ended up going today to a brain date, which was about brain date. It was put on by the CTO of brain date. A group of cool people just showed up to basically look into say, hey, how can we make brain date better? And I didn't bring up like the dating app idea. Somebody else had it separately, independently of this, which is freaking awesome. And because it started this conversation of, hey, like, could we make brain date into an app, like a service to just connect people? And it got me super interested in basically making a new networking app. A networking app in the first place that isn't LinkedIn. And when I was talking about it, I related this back to Pineapple, which is another app that many TCAS students worked on, which is it's kind of like LinkedIn but without the nonsense, right? So there's no scrolling feed, there's no AI, there's no fools in your inbox trying to connect with you even though you don't know them. There's none of that. Because on Pineapple, you can literally only connect with people you know in person. That's it. Like, there's no search bar. There's no feed for you to get connected to new people. When you connect with someone, you don't even know how many connections they have. You just know how many mutual connections you have between you two. That kind of thing. And with these kind of ideas, it got me thinking more like, hey, what Pineapple misses out on is the connections part, the new connections part, right? I think Pineapple's a cool place to hold your network right now, but it doesn't allow you to grow it. And here's how I think Brain Date can solve that with kind of the dating app idea. Because first of all, the Brain Date model works great in conferences. Like Google Brain Date, they go around to all different kinds of conferences. They basically do the same thing. If we want to take it outside of conferences and just make it a universal thing on an app, first you would need to almost integrate it into a network platform like Pineapple. And I was thinking of one where it would basically be your people network. You're not a transactional network like you build on LinkedIn, but literally just your network of people you've had deep connections with that actually matter to you, that you want to keep in one place instead of having to write down in notes. And it got me thinking of this idea where it's like, hey, we need to make sure this thing doesn't get transactional, doesn't get the nonsense that normal social media does. So like there can't really be likes to recommend different brain dates to be done again, or rank how brain dates have been done, or rank people and all that. There can't be any of that. It got me thinking of an app where you sign up for it as your networking app. You don't even make a profile. You don't even make a bio, all that. You sign up for a profile and you basically just put your name. You don't write a bio, you don't even write anything about yourself. Because when you meet people, when you connect on the app together, which is the only way to do it when you meet people, is when you meet people. When you connect, it'll prompt you to write down your takeaways from meeting the other person. What do you want to remember about this conversation? What do you know about this person now? Just key takeaways, right? And eventually that will become that person's bio. Instead of them having to write it, it's written by who they talk to. It'll become their public bio. I think that's a very cool idea, because it keeps the game honest, right? And then I think an AI that's recommending people to meet each other or recommending people to go to brain dates could just be so more effective when it's full honesty of what's going on. There was another idea of kind of this bubble chart that you would be able to fill out of different adjectives to describe how you feel about your talk, which I thought was very cool to put into an app. But then also, it got me thinking of the implications for networking of an idea like this. Like, I think this could disrupt LinkedIn. And I think if you get this in an app, it would be very cool if you could basically, in every city, just set up a small brain date area in the WeWorks, right? Take the chair, the brain date had chairs, lights, plants, all that. That was basically it. There's a room with that and it had different numbered tables where you would go depending on your talk. Put just one of those tables in a WeWork in every city, and just tell people to go there to have a real person-to-person connection, which is so valuable. And that's why people come to these conferences. That's why people network, is to have that person-to-person experience. But what's so hard and what gets in the way of it, especially for me when I was learning this, is how transactional the status quo of networking still is. How transactional LinkedIn is. It doesn't at all tap into that human experience. It just doesn't. Which is why I think we need something new. And this is something, like, this is an actual problem that I face after networking, is writing down the notes, keeping them all in one place. How do I keep my network all in one place so I actually remember these guys? All of that. Because if they're not writing a bio and their bio is literally your takeaways, you'll just remember them much better when you do have to go back to network and be like, who is it? Oh yeah, I remember our conversation. And of course I want to put an area where you could post a selfie with each other, just so you can remember the talk, what the other person was wearing, all that. I think that would be very cool with the WeWork and all that. I think it would disrupt LinkedIn. I think it could be the networking app, because also think about, like, they could integrate this into conferences themselves, because most conferences you go around, you have a badge with a QR code in it, which also allows you to connect in a conference app, which is normally bad. Like, nobody ever uses that QR code. Everyone just pulls up their LinkedIn QR code on their phone and has people scan it, because it's crap to connect in the conference app. But because Braindate already works with conferences, if they were to make an app, this networking app I'm talking about, they already work with the conferences. They literally could just integrate it right into the conferences, so their QR code is on the badges, so that when people actually start using this app, the conference badge would actually be useful. But yeah, like, this was a huge idea I had that I literally just want to pump out a memo on and send back to the CTO of brain and all the different connections I had that I talked to about this idea, because I think it could be very effective. Like, I think we need a new networking app. We need it because it's lacking right now. It's lacking. But yeah, now it's like the conference is over. This was the last day. It's weird because I almost feel like, because of how many French Canadians I've been talking to with like French accents, for some reason I can hear it myself now when I talk. I hear a French Canadian accent. Okay, maybe I'm just tired because it's like 3:23 right now in the morning, and I gotta wake up early tomorrow to get my train home and all that. And it was a late night last night. But anyway, I loved this, and I feel alive, especially from that rush of basically coming up with this new app idea, and the rush of all the connections I got in GDS and hydrogen and all that. Feel alive again. I also feel kind of down, and this is what I thought a lot about on my walk out to get poutine at 2 in the morning. Was, I gotta go back to school, which is probably gonna ruin it all again. My passion. It's gonna ruin it. I got a math test to write, because I missed a whole week of the math unit. Gotta write a test on Monday when I get back. Apparently my physics class did 4 freaking labs the 4 days I was gone. So I gotta do that when I get back, and you know what, I'm just sick and tired of letting this nonsense get in the way of stuff I actually care about, because I know what's gonna happen. I just had this whole tangent, this whole idea for a whole new app, and I want to write a memo and send it to everyone with all the ideas on it. But no, now I gotta go back to school and do this utter nonsense just to get caught up. It's basically busy work. It pisses me off. Like, I made a joke when I was texting one of my friends today. I made a joke about, hey, he was telling me about all the schoolwork I missed. I made a joke about, hey, I'm not coming back, I'm staying in Montreal. I'm staying, I'm not coming back to school, I'm dropping out, I'm not going back to that nonsense. I want to live my life. I want to continue living my life. I actually felt it tonight. I actually felt it when I went out alone on the streets of Montreal on a Friday night. People were letting out of clubs. I went to this poutine place that was basically just a club place you go after you go to the club where you're all drunk. You get poutine. They were playing crazy like folk and country music. I just want to live my life, and I felt it when I was out there. Like, I just wanted to stay. I didn't want to come back to my hotel room because I wanted to stay in Montreal and work on my ideas and not go back to the nonsense that's back home. And it's I hate this position. I hate it. I just want to work and learn from what I'm actually interested in, and not nonsense, not trying to jump through hoops. But yeah, like, the insights from this conference have been very important, and this is my way of kind of putting them down on my YouTube channel. And I feel like, because I have a friend, a close friend who I went to Web Summit with, that I basically sent like my insights and what happened at the conference. I sent her a voice memo every night about kind of what was going on, and I felt like it was a great way to organize my thoughts, because I would basically go on a shorter version of this tangent about what happened in the day. And even though, like, I don't know how much she actually cares about them and all that, I think she does, because she's really nice. But I would just send them, and I think it was a good way to organize my thoughts, and the responses I got were a good way to kind of learn more about her. But yeah, like, that's why I wanted to make this, because first we talked a bit about making like our kind of past with YouTube and making videos and how it's a good way to organize our thoughts, and then I also thought it would be a good like alignment with kind of a good way to end off the conference, just putting one of my ideas out there. But yeah, this is why I'm in Montreal. I just want to live my life, man. I want to live my life. I cannot handle going back to school, or I'm held back from just being myself. I don't know what I'm gonna do about it, but I'll keep being me. I'll keep being me. That's my promise. I'll keep being me. Because I want to work on this new app idea, and of course send it to Braindate. I want to keep working on GDS. I want to get my internship with CAE finally worked out. I want to keep working on hydrogen. I want to finish off my TKS strong with my hydrogen project and get it ready to take to the collision conference in June. All of this stuff I want to keep doing, and I just have the way more passion for it now. It feels like it's right there, and it feels like it would be fun to get there, and I just don't want anything to get in the way of it. I just pray nothing gets in the way of it. But yeah, this has kind of been my experience with the conference. I learned a lot of new things, even though it's my third conference with TKS where you learn stuff. I'm still learning each time about how to network, how to live, basically, how to be yourself. And I love it. I love it. I hope I get to work in an environment like this my whole life. But yeah, like, takeaways are very important for that, especially when I notice when it's more unstructured for me, what's kind of going on. I'm less intentional about stuff, and I'm more relying on my training, almost like I'm in a flow state, right? Almost like I'm in a flow state. And then takeaways were really important for that, and I really like how my friend just kind of reached out to me and asked me how CAE was going. I'm not CAE, C2 was going, like during it. And she was the only one, and that was very cool. That was very cool because it kind of got me thinking about these whole takeaways and recaps. How just formulating the ideas can help me remember them better. But yeah, that was C2. Hopefully some more cool stuff comes out of it. I'm more excited now, of course. And this has been Montreal. I love the city. I just love it. It was great. Even though it's French. It's great. I'm just a little bit racist towards the French, even though I have French Canadian family. I don't know how to describe it, but I'm really tired. I can barely keep my eyes open. It's 3:30 in the morning. Probably gonna be up at like 6 or something to see other students go, but my train's not till 11 or some kind of nonsense. I don't know. And I got the big day tomorrow, trying to get my hydrogen project ready for demo day, which is the end of TKS. And I got a big day after it, trying to study and get caught up on all the nonsense I missed in school. And I just don't want to miss stuff. But yeah, I don't want to miss this either, because I think this is very important. Like, I'll show you the view. This is the first kind of field trip we've been taking on this channel, but I'll show you this view from my hotel room because it's freaking awesome. Like, that is amazing. Literally this old church and these huge buildings around it. It's just really nice. Really nice. And yeah, I had a great conference, you know. I had a great conference, and I met some cool people, and I guess I'll finish off this video with talking about my last conversation of the day, which was actually with the Australian man that I met on my first brain date, and it was kind of just about us. He said he was going to New York and to see some Broadway plays, and he was going to go back to Australia to see his kids, and it was great. It was great because I felt like I got way more of that human experience, and I feel like I also got stuff out of it because he's giving me GDS connections, and he's wanting to stay active with me instead of just getting to know him well, where it's like, oh, I want to keep up with you. Like, no, he's like, here, I'm giving you these he's giving me these opportunities, and I think that's what I learned to do at this conference better, is how to, I got really good before at just getting to know people, but how to get to know people and get to know how to help each other, basically. But yeah, he gave me this disposable camera that I've kind of been going around taking pictures with. Oh, I wish I got a picture of that poutine place because that was a vibe. But yeah, I'll just take a picture of this video here so I can have a memory of making this because this is an important thing, you know? But yeah, I'll get this developed, have the pictures out. I was just taking pictures all night of kind of our last night in Montreal because it's been great. I loved it here. I don't know what's left in store, but again, I promise I'll keep being myself. And I guess that's it for this video. Next time I'll be back at home in the usual place. But yeah, this has been C2. I loved it.